Okay, welcome to Future Work-Life Skills Workshop this afternoon. It's really happy to be here. If you are looking up this session live, it's really good, but also if you are looking up the recording, so you can do the tasks and also follow this lecture afterwards. And please leave comments on the YouTube or in the chat on the program. We have also in the description the Padlet link. So if you do this, for example, the tasks from the recording, so you can add anonymously your viewpoints to the different areas on the tasks. And I will give you description later. So my name is Matti Laitinen. I'm physically here at Kuopio in North-Savo. I'm working in Business Center North-Savo as an innovation advisor. And I want to tell you some practical tips and also some kind of framework for future working skills. And I hope that if you have any questions or any comments arising that you will contact me personally too, I'm happy to answer about every issue that emerges. So let's go with the presentation. The headline is Future Work-Life Skills in 30 minutes. The idea is that within these 30 minutes, you will look up and kind of inspect yourself a little bit, inspect a little bit your environment, and also the larger scale environment around you. And as you have maybe done some LinkedIn workshops or areas regarding your working career and working life skills. So this is actually a nice addition to those. So if you, for example, are creating your LinkedIn profile, you want to get connections, you want to develop and kind of be more precise in your working life skills, you can use this session to boost also those areas. And here you can see also the contact information. So if you have anything to add or any questions, so you can directly get in contact with phone, with email or LinkedIn or Twitter. And this session contains 3 main points. Exercise 1 is kind of a philosophical one. So who am I? Exercise 2 is considering the strengths and viewpoints that you have. There is a little bit extra, but we'll get into that a little bit later. And exercise 3 is kind of viewpoints about the future and how could you also take those future trends into account when you think about your own strengths. So this kind of 3 exercises, how you reflect the future working life skills. And as I said, you can join now to the Padlet if you're online, but also join afterwards. And then when we are going with the tasks, you can add things on those. And as you can see, of course, in the virtual settings, this is highly different. But let's don't make this modern kind of technical spiritualism. So as you are doing the tasks, just write or choose the first thing that comes to your mind and take notes. As well, if you, for example, are making your first LinkedIn profile. So in a way, you need to write down the things that are important to you and important, for example, relevant for the businesses and different stakeholders, for example, when you are seeking a job. Then also, second thing is to communicate. That's highly important because Without communication, it might be hard to reflect on these issues. You cannot reflect everything within you only. You need to communicate with your friends, with potential partners, with different stakeholders. So one thing that I want to now mention at start. So, okay, now I'm working as an innovation advisor, but this is actually a kind of first tool that I would like you to, for example, use and reflect upon. So one enormous skill that actually everybody has regarding also future skills is the ability to reflect oneself. It's actually a huge asset to look up, okay, what kind of things I've done or I'm seeking to do. And one tool, as you can see here, these pictures and different kind of situations, one tool is to make kind of a mood board about yourself. So this is kind of a tip if you want to kind of start reflecting what kind of, who am I and what kind of skills do I have? And as you can see up on the left, down, maybe if you're not around from Finland and so on, you don't know, but there I'm having an interview with Finnish national ice hockey legend, actually, and that is always kind of giving me memories from over 10 years ago, that in many occasions when you just come to the new situations, you, for example, apply to different programs and for example, to the schools, you don't necessarily see in what kind of situations you can be in. So I never kind of thought out that Tami Tamminen, who is kind of a Finnish local ice hockey legend, so that I could interview him. And that's actually one point I'm always reflecting, that, okay, just the ability to get into new situations also helps me and team members and so on to develop oneself. And that is kind of the first thing in the mood board on the left. On upper left side, there is kind of two people having a fun gaming with this kind of chair. And that's actually one point about career in my own path in this mood board. So in this situation, we created this kind of games, kind of virtual games with this kind of chairs that moves. There is a tablet attached to the to this kind of machine, and then you can move this whole machine with your body. It's kind of a modified chair, so you can move this with your body. And this is kind of also one point in this mood board. So I was involved in this kind of program where we developed these kind of games to enhance health, vitality, and movement with different stakeholders, different people. And at this moment, I realized that, oh, I can be developing this kind of games. And this situation was kind of a game changer in my own kind of working life. So you can think about, for example, different situations this way. Okay, this was really interesting. I really got hyped up about this moment, for example, in your own life. Then curiosity and entrepreneurship. Okay, 6 years ago, I was working in a service design company. And on that picture, there is make sense, not war statement, but I was actually doing research in Tuska Festival. Maybe you haven't heard about the festival, and of course it was cancelled last year, but it's kind of one of the biggest rock festivals in Finland, and I was doing this kind of investigation in the event. And this also gives me kind of a viewpoint that, okay, I want to kind of be involved in this kind of different situations. And I remember this Tuska day really well when I was making this kind of service design for the Tuska Festival, how to develop the Tuska Festival to be more international. and I always remember like the scenery, the people, as you can see there, all the places, and so on. So that is important point too. And then the communities and cooperation. I've been involved in many in the startup scene and in many occasions, and I think it's kind of important to reflect. So, are you belonging to some kind of sceneries and communities? What kind of skills, skill sets, people you have met in these places? And this is also an important reminder that these communities and experiences matter. I've been able to reflect so many things when I've thought about those issues. And bottom right, you can see kind of headline values and passions. And that means, and it's kind of highly important as you, for example, study now. So what are your kind of core passions and values? What are the things that you base your life on? And here you can see this picture. It's actually from Lapland, from Finland. It's scenery from Urho Kekkonen National Park. So it's one of the largest national parks in Finland. And it gives a viewpoint to the awesome scenery and the nature in Finland. And that's one inspirational point actually for me when I do work, when I do new projects. So, and it's also kind of giving me a peace of mind, and I value this a lot. So this has helped also me to, for example, create something new. A motto is, of course, education. So as I have been doing many projects, so I believe that education, it's also, of course, the education that you get, for example, from the university, but it's also the things that you get to know during your life. And the reflection is the highly important point on that. So as you, for example, start, so I would highly recommend that you go do this kind of reflective mood board for yourself too. And now, if you are looking at this from recording, so you can do the tasks. It's important that you do the tasks one by one. You can stop the recording here. If you are online now, so you can join in the Padlet on the link. And the first exercise goes on the first column. So the first task is to think for you, who are you? And specific point on that, what features do you have that you can't find on Google? And actually, you can think it about how do you differ from the machine. So think about one thing that comes to your mind. It's important that you write it down and you kind of seek out that this is the issue. And second part on this also, so as we talk about, and we later on will talk about situations, so why you are here. So thinking about these two issues, but the first one is the most important. So now really shortly write this down, and I hope you can also write these things on chat now, but also on the Padlet. You don't need to put your name up there. You can answer with anonymous manner. And it will be really nice to see what kind of issues are arising there. So let's keep this here for a couple of minutes, and then I will go forward from here. And there is actually a first one started. I have brains. That is excellent one. And emotional intelligence and theme formation, another one. Really kind of specific areas. I think that usually those are kind of the core things that you fastly get? On addition to the first task, I would like to add that if you have done the LinkedIn exercise before, I believe so that there is also the recording on those. So it's always really beneficial to Google yourself time to time and actually look about the issues. For example, if there is some interests that you want to promote, so that is a good way to kind of trying to create the connections online with you and the part that you are enthusiastic about online. Yes, I think that we could carry on this. And as I mentioned, if you are looking up this lecture, so you can write down also on the Padlet just after this event also, but it's important that you write this down for yourself. And also, it's hopeful that you also discuss about these issues, because this is the first kind of opening thing if you think about future. So many of the abilities and ways, you can think that many skills you can learn already from the YouTube, from many sources. But in a way, the problem is that people maybe don't make the reflection for themselves to really think about these issues. And now, as you take time on this, so it helps you move forward. So if you think about yourself, you think about future working life skills. So it's highly important to think that, okay, how creative and entrepreneurial thinking could be developed. And here is 4 statements on that. Of course, the first thing that will you arrive to the different situations? As I told in the mood board, that gives you probabilities to create new things. Another thing is that do you avoid risks with student status, for example? So you have actually, if you study, for example, master's degree or something like that, so you have a 6 years time of experimentations that you can do. Well, one other thing is that do you make wild openings and experiments? So do you find out who you are? So the experimentation means that, for example, if some new kind of a project or work opportunity comes up, that okay, could you try it? What are the risks and rewards and so on? And fourth thing is that do you meet diversity? And this means do you actually meet different people, be in different situations, kind of see the cognitive maps and differences that people have and different cultures, because this gives a fuel for you creativity. You can reflect on more lots of ways of experiences this way. And if you want to dig deeper on these issues, I highly recommend you to look, for example, Linda Hill, How to Manage a Collective Creativity, because one thing what has been on the table in the research of creativity is this collective sense of creativity, because one person cannot have all the skills and viewpoints. So it's highly important that you think about how could I collect my strengths and connect those with other people. And on the right, you can see the picture, what kind of represents the thinking that usually we are highly kind of, we go with the status quo with the situation. So it will be highly beneficial to kind of do the experimentations, new projects that you can gather up to your portfolio. So, another two things about creative and entrepreneurial thinking. So you have, of course, some kind of image. What is your growth path? And I would highly suggest that you visualize and write down kind of the core things. Maybe you have done the LinkedIn or curriculum vitae, the CV, but I highly recommend that you visualize. The mood board was one example, but you should visualize the core skills and competences that you have. Another thing is that you have to follow up the changes in the world, and then think about kind of that on what are you actually now investing on. Maybe you are studying some specific field. That's of course an investment to your skills and knowledge, of course, but then you have to think that what kind of unique, for example, aspects do you have, what kind of close networks you have, and so on. And another thing is that if you think about the LinkedIn and your local network, so it's actually, you can visualize it in this way, that it's nodes, and there can be like differences with people, but you should be conscious when you are building up this network. So are you building up this kind of map that how connected you are? And it doesn't mean that everybody has to be this kind of highly active, kind of making connections all the time, but it's highly important to see kind of the relevant networks that you have close to you, because that helps when you are seeking jobs, when you are seeking new opportunities, maybe opportunities that you kind of haven't noticed even that they are there. So that's actually another point to do if you seek out what kind of networks do you have. So exercise 2 that you should do is that you should think about your strengths and your superpowers. I will go on the superpowers part soon. But first think about your strengths. But how do you think about your strengths? So first thing is to think about what kind of significant experience have you gained through hobbies, through work experience, through education. And then think about the concrete skills that you have needed in those. And then you get answer, what are your kind of personal strengths and abilities on this issue. On the right picture, where it's actually in Finnish, sorry for that, but there is the 3 columns. There is the first column, the experience, then the skills that you have got from the experience, and then the strengths and kind of the positive things that you have got from the different experiences. For example, there is hobbies, like this kind of a game hobby. There is kind of, for example, photography. There is kind of, if you have had children care, if you have, for example, watched children and so on in children care. There is kind of, if you have been in sales in store, for example. And for example, in sales, in stores, if that is the experience, you have learned about customer relationships, how to make orders, how to handle money, for example, and on those you can seek out your strengths. So good communication skills could be the strength in this issue. For example, taking care of the for example, making photography. So there is many technical issues. So skills that you have, how to take good pictures, how to use the softwares, how to use social media. And then you can think about, okay, you got some recognition from people, for example, on these photography sessions, or something kind of concrete. You have made some creative endeavors with the pictures you have taken. So in this way, you can look up the strengths that you have. Another thing is the superpowers that you can also add on the another column in the Padlet. So what would be your superpower in terms of future work-life skills? And another thing is to think about why this and how does it help others. So also one memorable thing on that. And on the right side, you can see kind of a list that is based on the Future of Jobs report from World Economic Forum. So actually you can use that list and kind of reflect on that from those 12 issues. So for example, creative problem solving and the ability to play is one highly important. Learning and critical thinking, making decisions in this world where you have a lot of opportunities, collaboration and self-knowledge, that like these tasks are linked to interaction skills, the emotional and situational and awareness skills, empathy, systems thinking and future skills, and machine learning and AI in general. So those are kind of areas that are highly important in the team work, for example. And your task is to think about what could be the closest one for you, and then to answer why this is relevant. And if you do it now from the recording, so just you can stop here, start writing and maybe making some visuals too on these issues. You can add those things on the Padlet too, and let's have a couple of minutes time for you now, if you're online, to a little bit write down these issues, and then we will carry on these. And if you have any questions now, I'm happy to collaborate on those. Yes, I'm reflecting on those issues, human relations, people skills, in the sense that I can identify other strengths. Highly important point came up in the Padlet. Actually on that, as we are now, and now you are thinking also about the relationship on the machines. So actually that is highly complex thing to machine to replicate. So that's actually important thing, that you can actually identify other strengths and then make the combination on that and kind of see the human relations, because machine, okay, they can see the relations in the sense of words and kind of follow up on that in the systems that we are using, but they cannot sense, for example, it's hard to sense the emotional status or the culture or abstract things like those. So that's actually a really important point. Then there is ability to play with different ideas, ability to connect different competencies together or create something new. That's actually a really concrete point, really good point, because with different ideas, for for example, if you think about service design, so in a way, on that abilities, you connect different things together in a way that you create something new, and the process at the start is really chaotic, but human beings can have the abilities and skills to organize that large group of different things together that machine necessarily can't. Really good points. And as I said, you can reflect on these issues also later on. And if you do, for example, you CV, curriculum vitae, you think about your future job, so you should write these down. So let's move on the last part. So here's a couple of tips that I've seen. So my work is a lot of helping, for example, companies, growing companies, new entrepreneurs who are forming a company from the idea, or they have some concept that they want to get forward. So actually, a couple of things usually that I'm also asking. So it's actually important to do than just to tell. So and with this I mean that the position that you might have had earlier and so on, it's in a way a good point, but it doesn't necessarily matter so much when you are doing something new, because for example, if you are seeking up a job, the networks and certain position can help you a lot, and usually helps you a lot to get, for example, get a new job. But in order to obtain them, for example, if you are in the interview, so you have to be kind of seek out the personal elements and the problem-solving skills that you have now, and all the tasks that you have done previously can be kind of an example that, okay, for example, if you have asked, if there is questions, so how could you solve this issue? How could you, for example, develop a new system, for example, for the websites? Then you could tell that, okay, in this and this technical way, with practical examples. And usually this is kind of a concrete thing that you should remember. So you could have some positions before, but what are the concrete skills and things that you have done there? How you have solved kind of the emerging problems during the work that you have done, for example. Another thing is the value thing and the effectiveness. So for example, when we look up the trends and so on, so what kind of unique things and impact you have done to your environment? So what are the small indicators, major indicators? For example, if you have been participating some kind of a sustainability issues, so that's highly important you to kind of get the concrete elements out of it. You have been developing, for example, kind of new guidance for sustainability issues in some specific area, for example, food waste or something like that. So try to be concrete with the values that value what you have done, and also you can little bit paint up the future that you want to create with these concrete deeds. And then the special areas, this is highly important, especially in the Finnish culture. So bringing up kind of the special areas that you have. I, for example, know that I'm pretty good connecting different expertises and processes together. If we, for example, have a workshop from different fields and with different people, so I'm actually really good to create some kind of a bridges between the people. So, and also the passion is highly linked to this. So what are your personal passions? How could you get those on board when you do something new, and so on? So these are the things for you to consider. Another thing is creativity. As on the list, on the 12 lists, there was the creativity mentioned, but what creativity actually is? Here is a couple of points. Al Fren, who is the professor of innovation management, he is actually, I think, working now in Denmark as a professor. So there is a couple of issues on this. One, as I mentioned previously, creativity is error and experimentation. As you maybe know, the brain tends to stay in its own comfort zone. So you need to work up your ideas in hands-on clay and experiment even scary things and be in the new places. So everybody doesn't need to be same way, like always testing something new. But as you know, for example, from the studies, you usually want to be in the safe zone and in the spot. You don't necessarily want to do new things all the time. So when you study, for example, so try to get into situations where you do new stuff. Creativity also is good. If you think about creativity, it's good that you have a timetable, actually. Tight spots, maybe you have seen that, like writing down the essays, so still the deadlines can help to you really to push up the new things on the table. But in this sense, you have to experiment. So what is your kind of personal touch when you are creating something new project and so on? How kind of tight schedule do you need? And then third thing is that great things are different and they even heat up emotions. So when you, for example, pitch, so you give kind of a sales pitch about new ideas. So the criticism, for example, is a good part because you want this kind of a creative operation towards your ideas. You want new ideas around you, original idea, because in this way you can get the feedback and maybe you open up a little bit your own view in the same way. So these are the 3 tips for creativity when you are creating something new. So actually we now go on the last task, and now actually there is the megatrend cards that you could be using. And you can see the link down here. I will actually put it on the chat now. Megatrend cards, and this can be additioned on also on the recording later on. I think that I can even put it on the YouTube. So the third task, as you can see also on the padlet, is you to go on the link and seek out the megatrends. So the megatrend cards stimulate and broaden your thinking and help you to come up with new ideas. So what future could look like? And you can see here, right, the kind of the large trends that we have now on the world, maybe specifically also in Europe, in Asia, in Africa, also in America. But few couple of megatrends that are kind of a big things is, of course, on the center, the ecological reconstruction is a matter of urgency. So everything in a way that we develop, we think about our skills are somewhat related to this issue. We have to create new ways of work, new ways, new technologies, new ways of concepts to do things as we are building up more sustainable future. But there is these 4 big also themes. The population is aging and diversifying. So this is important thing to think about. Overall, relational power is strengthening. So you can think about, is the cities the future of the world? Is it more centered on the cities? Is there new communities online and so on? What is the way to the future? The economy is seeking direction as we now think about the COVID situation and so on. So new things are emerging because of this pandemic too. And technology is becoming embedded in everything, as these streams also gives you viewpoints. So the technology issues are highly relevant in the future and also now. So this is kind of one context to seek out the future, and it's highly important that you read out the megatrends. You can choose one or two megatrends from the lists, from the link. I gave the link on the chat too, and also I believe it's on the YouTube later on. Another thing that now when we are wrapping this session up, so as you now made these tasks, so think about three things. So what concrete things you will do in the terms of self-development and your strengths. So how do you kind of take into account the strength that you have seen? Then think about the networks. What kind of networks you probably have that you haven't used, you haven't been involved, you haven't helped, and so on. And the third thing is to what kind of creative endeavor you could do. And you can also now write down, if you look up the megatrends, so what kind of megatrends are interest for you. It's kind of a good way for you to stimulate your ideas. Maybe if you haven't seen this, so it's also a new thing for you. But it's highly beneficial for broaden your thinking and have a tool for your thinking in this sense. So, and it's actually, the megatrend is also linked to Padlet too, if you want to use it from there. So, and actually, we could go forward, and I want you also to remember that you can tag us BC Pohjois-Savo ISYY and hashtag future skills. So if you have something really creative, I'm happy to give feedback, and also if you want to reflect on issues, I'm happy to reflect them with you individually or in teams. Go check our homepage. You can see some kind of events there, also the services that we have. You can contact me online too. Actually, there is coming some megatrend issue, stronger position for girls and women. That's actually a really good point. Equality issues are highly important in the diversifying world that we have, and actually that is highly important point, and on those megatrends too. So in this way, you should reflect on this issue. There is actually another point coming up: the growth of health technology. That is highly relevant thing. Actually, in Kuopio area, if you are here or you want to discuss about health more, there is the Kuopio Health ecosystem, so highly focused on the health technology in the region, and there is a lot of companies and organizations around that. Yeah, so if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer on those. I'm happy to contact with you directly. I'm happy to discuss, for example, the issues that we have here, the megatrends and all the issues presented here. And now you can use the Padlet. I will put the put this camera up. It's really going up here. So thank you really much of the moment that we had here. It was really good to have this session. I hope that you take time and reflect on these issues. I'm physically here now in the Kuopio, in the Novapolis, but I move in the Eastern Finland between Joensuu and Kuopio sometimes too. And if you have also some endeavors for the future, so I'm happy to kind of create also events and things like that too. So happy to help on that. And yeah, thanks from my behalf. I think that this session was good on this timetable, and let's be in contact.
Yes, thank you so much, Matti, for being here. This was a great session.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's stay in touch.
Let's stay in touch.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.